Okay, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Megan Kaufman. I'm here from the Administration for Native Americans, and I'm here to talk about the ANA Grantee Connector. This is our team. That's me, Megan. We also have Abigail Cardell and Joshua Marshall. We're all impact evaluators at ANA, and for shorthand for this project, we're the team that's connecting ANA grantees. So let me tell you a little bit more about ANA. We're located in the Administration for Children and Families, which is, of course, part of HHS. And we are not the Indian Health Service. We are not IHS. We are the human services side of Health and Human Services. So our primary charge at ANA is to provide grants to Native nonprofits and tribes in the lower 48, Alaska, and the Pacific. Our projects are community-driven and community-based, and they're all about addressing a unique need in these communities. So to give you an example, we fund HHS, which is a Native nonprofit in Hawaii, and they're working on men's health. And we also fund the Mashpee Wampanoag in Massachusetts, and they're working on establishing a tribal peacemaker court. So there's a huge variety in the projects that we fund. So let me tell you a story. This is Cheney. He works at the NKWUSM language school in ARLEE, Montana. Back in 2011, Cheney received a language grant from ANA to develop a Salish language curriculum. Salish is spoken in the Northwest U.S. Little did Cheney know that less than 4 hours away in Spokane, Washington, the KALISPEL tribe of Indians had already developed a comprehensive Salish language curriculum. Well, through his own networks, Cheney talked to someone who knew someone who knew someone who knew someone and got in touch with the folks at KALISPEL, and they were more than happy to let him use the curriculum. But by that point, he'd already spent a year of his time creating his own curriculum. That amounted to about $81,000 of his staff salary that he could have spent elsewhere. Cheney's problem just illustrates our larger problem we see across our portfolio. When our grantees don't connect, limited time and resources are wasted. They're wasted through duplication of effort, like we mentioned, through best practices not being shared, and through mistakes being repeated. So we wanted to address this problem by developing an online tool for grantees to connect with each other. We went through 4 versions of this tool and talked with 40 people along the way. We talked to about 26 grantees and 14 ANA staff and technical TA providers, technical assistance providers. And we learned what would work and what simply would not fly. That brought us to our final grantee connector, is what we're calling it. This is our final prototype. And you can see the 5 main areas that everyone has requested. So I'm going to walk you through it real quickly. We have the current grantee directory. This is pretty straightforward. It would just be a directory of all the current grantees. You could search by program area or by community condition. This way they can connect to each other directly without ANA moderating that. We also have the site visit lottery. This was actually a grantee idea that floated up to us. And it's just what it sounds like. It's a lottery. Grantees would enter. And ANA would select a few and fund them to visit each other so they can have that face-to-face experience. We also have Promising Projects database. We have data from over 200 projects that were successful in ANA's past. And we want to share this with the grantees so this way they can learn from what came before. We have grantee tools and templates. This includes all those things you need from day one, like tracking forms, budget templates, policies and codes, and it would also have curriculum. So if Cheney had had this, he would have looked up Salish language curriculum and been set from the beginning. We also have a Challenges Overcome section. Again and again, our grantees tell us that they want to know what kind of challenges to expect and how they might overcome them. So we show this to our grantees, and 98% said they would use it. We asked them, would it increase their connections with new grantees? And the average response that they would connect with 12 more people in a year. They also said it would help decrease duplication and mistakes, amounting to about 268 hours a year. That's 0.13 FTEs they could be spending on other things. We didn't develop this tool with ANA staff in mind, but along the way we realized ANA would also benefit. It would help improve our efficiency in meeting our internal mandates and our external mandates. It would help establish us as a go-to source for sharing successful project models. And we also realized it would help us save time. We spend a lot of time collecting success stories and connecting grantees ourselves. If we had this tool, we could save about 3,500 hours a year. So we've developed an implementation plan for launching this. And we've considered costs such as web development, content population, marketing, and user tests. And the total price tag is $84,000 and 1.1 FTE. That's what we're asking for today. So let me leave you with this quote. This is what one of our grantee interviewers said to me. She said, "Our people need to unite. If we work and collaborate with each other, we're only going to get stronger." We feel the same way. Thank you.
Great. Well, this is a really exciting project, and it looks like the results you guys are expecting are significant. Just one point of clarification to make sure I understand. Is the site populated by staff in your office, or how much comes of the content is populated by the actual grantees themselves?
So the majority of it is populated by staff in our office, and it's information that we do collect regularly. We have on-site visits that we schedule at the end of grantee projects. So we have a lot of that information in hand, but in terms of the contact information for grantees, we'd have to reach out to get that. And there's also an opportunity in the curriculum and the tools and templates section for folks to load their own tools directly there. So it would be moderated by ANA, but they could load it up themselves.
Got it. Thanks.
I really appreciate how much measurement you did to determine what the impact's going to be, which I think is really helpful in getting anything like this funded. But on the spend side, with the $84,000, I'd like to see more of that money, or some of that money, go towards incentivizing people to use the system rather than maybe building something. I think, social networking, which is is like a social networking issue with these grantees. There's a lot of platforms available. Like I can think of like boot camp, and even like having a LinkedIn page or a Facebook page provides a lot of these services for free, and you might be able to use the money then to just give people incentives to add content into a more of a free platform service. That's just my thought.
I think that's a great idea. We have put a significant amount of money in the budget for marketing because we do realize it's important to use those networks that people have already existing. So we're likely to use, we already have a system of peer advisors in our communities. So we're likely to reach out to those folks and get them to spread the word, so helping pay them to spread the message as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the slide that showed your 4 prototypes?
Yes.
So developing a web application, anybody could easily hire a team of people, have them work on it for a few months and spend $84,000 or a lot more developing that. So I guess my question, 2 questions. One is, how much time and money did it cost you to make that first pencil sketch?
It took me about an hour.
Right. So the follow-up question
And no money,
is,
my time.
so the pencil sketch had your initial ideas for what you thought they needed. What were the most radical changes once you got out and talked to the people who wanted to use this, from your pencil sketch to what you ended up with?
So the pencil sketch had almost everything under the sun on it. Facebook pages, LinkedIn, a message board. And I think that was maybe one of the most dramatic discoveries, is that the community we were working with, they're not interested in using those tools to connect with each other. They use those tools on their own, but they're really not interested in using them for the purposes of their ANA grant. So that, along with the feedback that to make it simplified and more streamlined, I think the hand sketch was very cluttered and there was just too much on there.
So that's a lot of stuff that you originally thought you have in it that ended up not in the final. Are there any things you'd want to highlight in the final that you hadn't anticipated that are critical based on what you heard to serve the community?
That's a great question. We didn't realize that Challenges Overcome should be its own specific section. We were including that in a project profile section that was somewhat buried. But the more we heard it, we got feedback that people wanted to sort through challenges. They didn't want to just be able to go find them. And so that was a big discovery. And so we made that a main content area.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I'm going to ask one quick question. Who are the 2% of people that said they wouldn't use it?
So there were 40 people we showed it to. So 39 of the 40 said they would use it. The one grantee who did not
Actually,
say...
that's 2.5 people that said they wouldn't use it, just to be clear.
So she actually said that she would be more than happy to put her information out there, and because she felt that she was a good example others could learn from, but she didn't think that she would go to the site because she said her project was very unique and no one else had done it before.
Interesting. I wonder if that's actually true. I mean, I think that's something that we'll find out once this hopefully goes live. Do you anticipate making further changes as you build it out? Do you anticipate further iterations? By learning more about the population and how they use the site as it goes forward.
Yeah, so we are seeking funding, as I mentioned, for a web developer to help build this out, and I think part of that process, the first phase will be kind of doing a little bit of this again, just to make sure we're certain about everything before we build it out. But I feel that we're on very good foundation about what people want, specifically the content they want.
Yeah, one last thing. I wonder if there's a way to structure the grant program and outreach so that it incentivizes or requires some participation in this kind of thing. I don't know how it's structured or what the current requirements are.
Yeah, and that's actually come up before.
Yeah.
From our experiences, we don't feel like we need to require grantees to reach out to each other because they're asking for it all the time.
Got it.
This actually stemmed from a survey, and the second most thing they requested from ANA was more ways for us to connect them to each other. So I think the motivation is there, and that's not going to be a concern. But it's a good question.
I just have one more. Was there any outreach to any other agencies within HHS that are dealing with grantees and how they connect? Do they have any other interesting solutions, or will they be maybe following along and being other users for this?
Yeah, so it's two different pieces. The first piece of that, we did talk to other folks in ACF who have developed networks like this for their tribal grantees, but the way, those programs are very different than ours, but the way that theirs are set up, they built it first and then kind of waited to see how it was being used. And the lessons they learned were very similar to the ones we learned, is that Facebook doesn't really work, and that to have more of an inclusive community is better than having something open.
So is there a market for you to resell this service to other agencies if it's successful here? Or is it too specific to what you're doing?
I don't think it's too, I think that since the projects are so unique and they could be replicated in tribal and native communities indigenous communities across the world, that I think there's so much to be learned from their own struggles and their own self-discovery through these grants that, yeah, I think these models could be replicated elsewhere.
Thank you.
You're looking for return on your investment.
Yes.
We're actually out of time, so I'm going to have to cut you guys off.
Okay.
Megan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That was excellent.